Check, 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 check. That's fine. Good day, sir or madam. Welcome back to Watch That, Don't Watch That, whatever you'd like to call it. A series where I summarize, analyze, criticize, and digitize films. Mostly horror. 1408, a film based on a short story from a book, from which the story itself was derived from a passage from another book by Stephen King. That's right, everybody, we've already headed into King territory. Released in 2007, directed by Mikhail Hafstrom, and starring Samuel Jackson and living cartoon John Cusack. Seriously, every time I pause this movie, Cusack looked like a caricature of himself. 1408 follows a cynical Haunted Places author who gets himself in over his head in a New York hotel with a bit of a dark history. There's a lot to get through here in this one, so we're gonna have to pack our bags, hail a cab, and head on down to New York City. Hey, I'm walking here! But don't enter this particular room because there are spoilers ahead. So if you were planning on watching this, go ahead and go do it now. It's like $5 on streaming. Alright, let's go! It's a dark and stormy night on a dark and stormy road as we see an old SUV pull up, throw it in park, then put its thing down, flip it, and reverse it as the film's title appears like a ghost in the foreground. Inside the SUV is Mike Enslin, an author, and obviously not a cartologist who consults his map to figure out where the fuck he's going. Moments later, he pulls up to the Weeping Beach Inn where he's greeted excitedly by the owners. They quickly jump into telling him a history of the hotel. The maid committed an hero. The kids died of tuberculosis, and it's overall just kind of a spooky stay, allegedly. There's even a brochure. Wowzers. Mike seems a bit skeptical of the story, but gets his room key and heads up to the room nonetheless. Speaking into a handheld tape recorder and seriously dating this film, Mike describes the room. From behind his ear, he pulls a single cigarette, or a Lucy as they're called in the city, $1 a piece, and sets it in the room's ashtray, once again dating the movie to almost prehistoric times. You can't smoke in there anymore. Mike waits around, giving the room a once over, and overall it appears to be an uneventful night. Morning comes and it appears Mike survived the stay as we join him in the car, heading back home and recounting his experience on the tape. He then rates the hotel 6 out of 10 skulls, which is his personal quirky author rating system, then decides, screw him, 5 out of 10. Next, we join Mike as he enters a bookstore, approaching the front desk wearing his really edgy hat. He tells the clerk he's there for the big event, and the man seems perplexed until Mike holds up a flyer for the book signing which he is supposed to be hosting. Oh yeah, that old thing, okie dokie. The clerk gets on the intercom and announces that Mike is in the house, listing off a couple of his books. 10 haunted houses, 10 haunted graveyards, etc., etc. Doesn't seem impressed, to be honest, but god do I love this expression as he reads the titles, as if he just witnessed Mike fart or something. Cut to Mike now in the Q&A section of the event, dryly answering the questions of his many adoring fans. Yikes, seems like Mikey Boy's in a bit of a rut. He describes some of the spooky places he's sat around moping in, but reveals that he's never actually got any evidence of ghosts or the afterlife. What a bummer, my dude. Next, we're autographing books. The clerk approaches him from behind, asking where he should go to definitely see a ghost. Obviously wasn't paying attention. Mike replies, guaranteed, Haunted Mansion, Orlando. So Mike is just a bit of a curmudgeon and doesn't seem to mind much stomping all over people's dreams, but hey, whatever butters your biscuit. Suddenly, a book that actually doesn't look like it belongs in a local Walgreens just above the Oprah magazine flops onto the table like a dying fish. The back cover shows a younger Mike Enslin, and it's obvious now that there was a time when our boy was a bit more ambitious about his career. The book was put there by a young woman who looks like she smells like some kind of spice that you can't identify. Mike asks her where she managed to find this old relic, and she says she basically got it on eBay for, well, there weren't a whole lot of bidders, so, you know. She says that the relationship in the book between the father and son was really well developed and so authentic, and she wants to know if it was inspired by Mike's life. He thinks about it for a moment, then says no, choosing to shut down what could be a true fan rather than bother for a moment to share anything from that time in his life. Oof. This hero is a tough sell. Okay, now we're on the beach in Cali, catching some waves and soaking up the sun, living the life that only a middling 40-something author can afford. Mike, perched upon his board out in the surf, looks up at a plane toting a banner, and just as he's able to make out what it says, a rogue wave, clearly not a big fan of his, sends him overboard and into the drink. I mean, this thing is really whooping his ass. He washes up in the sand motionless for a moment before he starts spewing out water like an old muffler. Later on at the post office, Mike grabs his mail. Finally, some action. On his way out, one of the guys who works there and clearly knows him stops to say he read the latest book. Scary shit, dude. Mike pauses for a second on his way out to give him a cool story, bro, then continues on to drink coffee at a diner, shuffling vacantly through a bunch of brochures from desperate hotels trying to get some free advertising through his books. He stops at a postcard with no return address from the Dolphin Hotel. Curious, he turns it over to read the fateful 3 words that will finally get the plot moving. Don't enter 1408. He grabs a pen to do some quick maths. 1, 4, 0, and 8 add up to 13. Now that is terrifying. That's the unlucky number, you know. Black cats, ladders, and innocuous double-digit numbers. Scary stuff. Mike gives a hotel a call to try and book the room, and they shut him down immediately, saying that the room is unavailable. But I didn't even tell you the date, he says. The person on the phone just keeps shutting him down. Ooh, sorry, that room is unavailable. This only seems to pique the author's interest, so he heads to the library to review some microfiche. Seriously, the amount of outdated tech in this film from around the time when I was in high school really makes me feel the need to go get some Rogaine and wrinkle cream. He discovers that there are a number of deaths and self-resets closely related to this particular room at the Dolphin Hotel, spanning nearly 100 years. Now, this is interesting content. Mike Six's agent, played by Tony Shalhoub, and the lawyer on the hotel in order to get the room. The lawyer finds a legal loophole in some old civil suit that prevents the hotel from booking rooms if folks need a place to stay. I'm not 100% sure that this would work in this situation, but my understanding of law is only a few steps above Charlie Kelly, so I'm going to let this one go. Shalhoub chews away the lawyer and talks to Mike in private. He asks Mike if he's going to be cool with coming to NYC and mentions someone named Lily who may have an interest in the event of him being in town. Mike pushes it off, saying it's just a job, get in and get out. Uh-oh, complex interpersonal relationships. Now this is a film. Alright, we're pulling up skirt to the hotel in a traditional yellow cab, definitely not being driven by a depressed person of color in massive debt. Mike heads to the front desk and tries to check in, but the clerk puts the whammy on it after being alerted by a machine to go get a manager if this operation occurs. Mike says, okay, I'll wait, as the woman goes to get somebody who gets paid considerably more than her to handle the situation. The bellhop jumps out of nowhere and asks to take Mike's bags, but he refuses. Ooh, this place fancy. Moving right along, we meet Olin, the manager of the hotel, whose parents must have been Tolkien fans, and he asks Mike into his office for a little chatty-watty. Olin offers Mike a cigar, to which Mike replies that he doesn't smoke, despite the cigarette behind his ear, which is apparently to be used only in case of nuclear apocalypse. What an eccentric guy. Olin tries to dissuade Mike from staying in the room, bribing him with booze and Knicks tickets and, New York stuff, but Mike seems pretty determined to have a nap in this place. Olin asks how long he's going to be staying, to which Mike replies, the night. Seems like a dumb question with an obvious answer, but then Olin enlightens Mike to the fact that actually nobody has lasted more than an hour in that room. Mike's sick of his shit, so he demands to stay in the room and nothing is going to change his mind, but Olin continues to try and change his mind anyways, rattling off fatalities that have occurred in the room over the years. And then Mike cuts him off, finishing the list into his tape recorder and taking a shot at the manager, calling him out for what appears to be just a script that he's recited countless times. I bet you tell all the boys that. Let me drop some knowledge on your paperback pumping punk ass, Olin doesn't say. Then lets Mike know that he's only got part of the story. You see, those deaths that Mike found were only those which were covered by the media. And there have been a shit ton of natural deaths that went unreported, bringing the death toll in 1408 to 56. Jesus, isn't there some government job to prevent places like that from operating? Whatever, man. With this new information, Mike seems to have second thoughts and takes Olin up on the drink from earlier. He has a sip and thinks for a moment. I'm still staying. God damn it! Olin then proceeds to get personal, talking mad shit about Mike's stinky tourist books and wondering where the talented young author of the first book went, adding that the daddy in the book seems like kind of an asshole. He was, Mike says, before launching into his ultimate attack and demanding the key because they both know that ghoulies, ghosties, and long-legged beasties don't exist. Boy, do I love that line. Olin leads Mike to the lobby, gets him the key, and warns him that there are, in fact, no ghosties or ghoulies. It's just an evil fucking room. In the elevator up to the 14th floor, Olin explains that the room gets serviced once a month. 2 maids using the buddy system are allowed in for 10 minutes at a time with the door open, while Olin watches them at all times. He says they treat it as if it were a chamber filled with toxic gas. Holy shit, man, we get it. Room bad. Mike heads down the hall as Olin bids him adieu, saying that this is as close as he gets to 1408 unless it's that time of the month. Okay, bye, have a good nap. Mike, unshaken, heads down the hall, noticing a woman dragging a baby into one of the rooms. It's the room next door, in fact, because here we are at long last, 1408. Mike inserts the key and turns it, illustrated in great detail by a needlessly complex CGI shot that probably cost my yearly salary to generate. Hey, cool FX though, guys. He swings open the door and turns on the lights, looking around before entering. This is it? He asks himself. Mike quickly gets to work, settling his emergency cowboy killer in the ashtray and busting out the recorder to get his initial impressions of the room. It's quaint, it's boring, the bathroom is unremarkable, it's probably much like Ted Cruz's living room. Mike flips through the channels, certifies that the required literature is in the nightstand, and checks out the mini fridge. He fools around with the thermostat, a grave sin in my house. Nothing to report here, though. Next, he describes the paintings hung around in the room while sipping on Olin's bribe and eating the complimentary mints from the pillow. Man, whatever happened to the complimentary mints? I miss those mints. Damn you, pandemic! There's a painting of a schooner traversing a tumultuous sea, and another of a scary-looking old lady reading to some kids while a mama and her baby watch from across the room, ominously. There's a third picture too, but I don't particularly care for it, so moving on. Mike hangs out the window like Suge did Vanilla Ice and begins describing his surroundings. Typical NY scenery, nothing much to say, and just then Mike gets bumped in the head as the window slips and accidentally tries to eat him as the AM radio erupts to life, playing an old Carpenter song. Man, this movie makes me feel old. Last time I'll comment about that though. I'm young at heart! Mike turns around, nursing his now lumpy noggin, and finds that the room is put back exactly how it was when he entered, the mints back on the pillow and everything. He looks around the room a little closer, confused and a little shook. Even the cute little folded toilet paper has been reset. He reasons that some clever little serviceman or woman must have run through and fixed everything while he was looking out the window. And by Encyclopedia Browning this bitch, his words not mine, he quickly determines that the culprit must be back in the living room now. He runs as fast as he can and nothing. He hears a noise coming from the vent. Maybe nothing. Probably. The room is starting to heat up and Mike checks the thermostat again. Something is broken inside there. He decides to give the front desk a little ringy-tingy and a woman answers, asking if he's ready to check out. He says no, but he would love it if someone would come check out the heat before he turns into a puddle of musty beige sweat. And to his surprise, the woman says they'll send somebody right up. Okay. Hold on to your tits, cause this train's about to leave the station, y'all. Mike busts out his blacklight and scans the room for evidence, CSI style, looking for blood, semen, stuff like that. He finds evidence of all the incidents that have happened in the room in the past. Olin must have been bullshitting about that once-a-month cleaning, though. Satisfied with the results, he moves on, but wait! The painting in the living room is crooked. He didn't do that. Wait a minute. He goes to correct it. No matter which way he puts it, it seems just a little off. Boom, boom, boom! There's a knock at the door. Mike looks through the peephole to see the scariest-looking maintenance man of all time. Man, that lighting is not flattering. Mike quickly opens the door and explains the problem, leading the man to the thermostat. When he doesn't come in, Mike says, "Hey bud, it's over here." To which the maintenance man replies, "Yeah, jackass, but I'm not coming in there. Any dipshit can fix the thermostat, just open it and give it a tap or two." Mike taps it and lo and behold, it works. He excitedly turns back around to give the guy a tip and finds an empty doorway. Big L. Finally cool and a little bit more relaxed, he sits on the bed for just a moment before the clock radio blasts back on with the same shitty classic rock song. When he looks over, the time switches over to a countdown for 1 hour. Uh-oh, didn't Olin say something about that? Mike casually shifts back into a minor panic before suffering a bout of tinnitus, which forces him again back to the window for a breath of fresh air. As soon as he pulls his big goofy head back in through the window, the frame drops once again and absolutely mushes his hand, mangling and bloodying it. Mike runs to the bathroom to nurse his wound with a complimentary bathroom linen and some water. Seconds later, the sink tries to kill him with 100% steam pressure. Toot toot! Mike smashes a bunch of towels into the thing until it stops blasting. The radio chimes back in again. Guess which song? Highly Alarmed. Get it? Mike rips the thing out of the wall like a meth head looking for bugs. However, the power does not cut out. Curious. The phone rings and Mike rushes over to pick it up. This time, Mike agrees it's probably time for him to call it quits, but the attendant hangs up on him after putting on hold for a brief moment. Mike grabs all of his shit and proceeds to head to the door hurriedly, but it's stuck. He tries to unlock it with the key, but the shaft breaks off and the door sucks in the key like a spaghetti noodle. Then the handle falls off. Uh-oh. Mike looks back into the peephole, this time seeing an eye looking back at him. Okay, game over, man. We got to get the hell out of here. He runs to the window shouting for help to an uncaring New York street. Across the way in the opposite building, he sees a man sitting at a desk. He motions to get his attention and the man jumps up, finally seeing him. After a second of fruitlessly trying to tell him to call the cops, Mike realizes that the man is mimicking his every move. Mike grabs the lamp and pulls it to his face. So does the man across the street, and it's Mike. Mike has only seconds to be perplexed before the strangest looking man sneaks up behind Mirror Mike, going after him with a hammer, and wouldn't you know it, the same man goes after legit Mike as well, swinging at him and just making the weirdest face before disappearing as quickly as he appeared. I've just got to stop and say that this character is so bizarre looking that it almost brings me out of the film every time I see him. It looks like a man dressed as a woman dressed as a man. It looks like Roseanne on fentanyl. Anyway, let's keep moving. Mike screams out the window for help again, throwing the lamp in a desperate attempt to get attention. He's shocked as he watches it just glitch into the back rooms before hitting the street. Back into the room, he hears a little girl's ghostly wail. "Daddy, where are you?" This seems to stop him in his tracks for a moment, causing him to have a moment in the corner, shaking his head until the voice falls out. He grabs the recorder and begins reflecting on what could possibly be causing this because ghosts ain't real. He theorizes that old pipes and vents, odd lighting, and room format combined with powers of suggestion of haunts in the room could be causing some psychosomatic issues. Descending deeper into paranoia, he returns back to the vent thinking he must have seen a camera up there. He begins screaming like a wild man, then is struck with an epiphany. Drugged! Olin must have spiked the liquor with LSD and the mints must have been high-powered edibles or something. Okay, keep it together, Mike. Ride it out for a couple hours and you'll be right as rain. It's all gonna be okay now. The TV, feeling neglected, turns itself on, showing a home movie featuring Mike and what appears to be his wife and daughter. As the scene plays out, Mike begins shedding tears and just generally not having a great boarding experience. Past traumas begin to resurface as Mike says, "Forget about it," and continues slurping down Olin's liquor. He turns around and sees the ghostly embodiments of 1408's past victims who have hopped out the window and taken the express elevator to hell. Before there's even time to begin to unpack this, Mike hears the baby in the next room crying. He runs over to the wall and begins banging on it to try and get mommy's attention. What actually happens, though, is that the baby's crying begins amplifying into a maddening cacophony, sending Mike to the floor clutching his head. He gets up and wings a chair at the wall, not worried about getting the deposit back at this point. He hears a noise in the bathroom and goes to investigate. Inside he finds a different bathroom, one which contains his aging father, you know, the asshole from the book. "As you are, I was. As I am, you will be," he ominously says. The bathroom blinks back to normal and Mike retreats into the living area again, reasoning that he must somehow be having a nightmare, and that perhaps jumping out of the window is the most big brain move, because the shock will wake him up. The wall is bleeding. New plan, Mike decides to hop out the window and ride the outside wall into the adjacent room, commit a B&E, and then escape from there. Nice. He grabs the recorder before heading out to let anyone listening know that if he dies pulling this little stunt, that it was his mistake and that the room did not beat him. So I'm straddling the wall and I'm just moving along and I'm thinking, hey, how long is this wall anyways? Gabagoo! Mike's plan is taking longer than expected and he looks ahead to find that against all odds, 1408 now has the only 2 windows on the whole building. Aw, jeez! He heads back to the room quickly, starting once again to panic and make silly mistakes like slipping one of his stinky old boots off the ledge and almost dying after being jump scared by the jumper lady wearing the picnic tablecloth. Whoopsies! He pulls himself up through the window just as the window tries to eat him once again, barely making it back in. Confused, Mike goes back to look at the map and wouldn't you know it now, 1408 is the only listed room on the floor. Aw, jeez! Mike looks through the peephole to see only bricks outside. Aw, jeez. In fact, all the windows are now just bricked up and Mike is really trapped in this room now. Ah, jeez. He rewinds his recorder back to review some notes, hearing himself commenting about the fact that the room has no windows being kind of odd, although he never said that. Now the room is gaslighting him as well as trying to kill him. Talk about adding insult to injury, man. Jeez. Aw, jeez. The living room suddenly becomes the hospital where Mike and his wife are confiding in each other about alternate treatment plans for the daughter, having just received what appears to be some pretty bad news. The scene pans over to the girl who is laying in the bed, not appearing to be in great condition. Before Mike even has time to shed a tear, the lights cut out, but only long enough for the weird hammer guy to appear in a mirror and then instant transmission away again. Mike, regaining his composure, goes to his bag and checks his cell phone. No luck. He pulls out the laptop to see if maybe there's a sliver of signal. Now wait just a second here, this guy's had a cell phone and a laptop his whole time and never once thought to use it to try and find help? His first thought was to scream like a madman into the New York streets and try and do some amateur urban climbing, not just to grab the damn Nokia and dial 911? Okay, now I'm kind of feeling like the room can have him. I guess being good at writing doesn't make you smart. Anyways, Mike does have a connection on the laptop somehow, so he opens up the Yahoo Messenger and ICQs, or whatever the fuck it is you do on that thing, and his wife, Lily, appears on the screen. He begins telling her that he's locked in the Dolphin Hotel and to call the cops, but she cuts him off, understandably upset that he's back in town and wasn't going to say anything to her about it. She reveals that about a year ago, Mike just left and never came back. No call, no divorce, no nothing. Okay, but listen, I'm gonna die in this room. Could you please get some help? No papers, not a word, no status updates on LiveJournal, not even a fax. Anyways, the room gets tired of this conversation and sets off the sprinklers, terminating the connection on the laptop and getting everything nice and moist for a few cool minutes. Mike hears another noise coming from the vent and finally decides to become sussy. Wow, it's like a whole nother world up here. He crawls around hoping to find connections to the other rooms, but instead is treated to an anthology series of all of his failures in life every time he looks down. There's him walking out on his wife and newborn to go get cigarettes. Lily looks up to him in the vent. Yikes. There's him arguing with his father about taking more responsibility during the time of crisis with his daughter Katie. Then Dad looks directly up at him in the vent. Jesus, these shots are creepy. Deeper into the vent, Mike finds a corpse, as if things weren't absolutely fucked enough by this point. It's dusty and covered in spider webs, and oh my god, it's alive! It chases Mike all throughout the vents until someone calls an emergency meeting and ejects him from the map, sending him back to Q in the lobby. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a nice, cool beverage right about now. Mike goes to the mini fridge and opens it to find a miniature replica of Olin's office, complete with a lifelike Olin figurine. And it talks! Olin asks him if everything is meeting his particular expectations in the room. "You know goddamn well they are," he screams. "What do you want from me? What do you want from me?" Cut back to the room and we see that Mike is arguing with a completely stocked mini fridge. Have you ever seen an author go ape shit? He punches and kicks and tears the appliance apart, just really killing the thing. Chill out, Mike, you got him. He sits down with a bottle and the Bible, prepared to make his peace with God, only to find the Bible empty. No God here, buddy. Shitter's full. The TV cuts back on again and we're transported back to Mike's old apartment, sitting in Katie's room with Lily. Katie's asking if there's going to be other people with her after she dies. Lily says yes, all of her friends will be there, and her family too. Katie turns to Mike and asks him if he believes. He says yeah, but you can tell his heart really isn't in it. Cut to months later, Katie is clearly gone. Mike screams at Lily, "We should have done more instead of filling your head with this Jesus crap." He goes to get cigarettes. I suppose that this is the trip he never returned from. Suddenly we're back in the bedroom and a fax is coming through. It looks like Katie's hospital gown. Huh, now that's a new feature. Well, the thermostat's fucked up again and we've now moved to the deepest circle of hell, furthest removed from God's light. Mike, starting to freeze, curls up in a comforter, striking a makeshift fire and talking into his recorder deliriously. Suddenly the laptop springs back to life, Lily on the screen trying to get Mike's attention. She says that the cops are in room 1408 right now and that it's empty. Looks like this room might just get the dubski yet again. Before Mike can really get a word out to Lily, the computer begins speaking for him, telling Lily he's sorry and yada yada, and just to come up to the hotel, don't talk to anyone, stroll right on into 1408 and talk to him. He misses her. He needs her. The room's scouting out talent for the next season already. How proactive. This is why 1408 puts up the numbers, baby. Computer Mike winks at legit Mike, then the laptop cuts off. Well, the forecast calls for rain once again, and it's a real whopper out there. All the paintings have morphed into evil, traumatic versions, including the one with the ship, now featuring a familiar face. Mike whacks the painting with a chair leg or some debris he's created during the course of his stay, and of course, a tsunami comes roaring out of it, sending him careening across the room like a ship in a storm. The room begins filling up with water, and Mike grabs onto a destroyed door frame to stay afloat just like Jack and Titanic. And just like old Leo Caps, it's not long before he goes under, finally being overcome by the elements. Mike washes up on the sunny beach in LA, just like his surfing accident. He sees the banner he was squinting to identify, and guess what it says? Whoa, trippy dude. He blacks out and wakes up in a hospital with Lily by his side, who apparently is still his emergency contact. She tells him that he must have broke bad on a gnarly tube and got hella whacked on the dome by his board, causing a groovy CTE-induced blackout. Mike describes to her how real the room seemed, how lucid everything was. It was unbelievable. So, sparked into action by this near-death experience, Mike begins really trying to get his shit together, trying to patch things up with Lily over dinner, asking her to come stay in LA with him. Wait, who's that? Never mind. He picks up his mail, double-checking that no hotel postcards have arrived, goes back to the library and tries to find anything about 1408 and comes up with a whole load of dick. The same people died, but all of non-1408 causes. Mike gets to work on the next great American novel, reinventing himself in kind of a horror novel, hotel review, fictional biography hybrid, finally inspired again. His agent is happy about this. He finishes the draft, gets it in an envelope, and heads to the post office, but not before making a pit stop to try and get his relationship with Daddy off the rocks. Mike clambers into the post office, telling the guy behind the counter that he needs this novel sent to New York overnight. He's got the next New York Times bestseller in his hands right now. Looks like they're doing some minor renovations in here. That's pretty cool. Anyway, he's got to have this modern American classic put on a plane to the Big Apple right away so we can... Hey, who is that? You're not my regular guy. Oh my god! Mike looks around confused, probably a little dizzy, and the bellhop smashes the fucking window with a bat, and the construction crew begin absolutely leveling the place, pulling up carpets, yanking down the ceiling, tearing down walls to reveal, oh no! It's 1408. Oh shit, here we go again. I was out! I was out, Mike exclaims. Hey, at least they let him keep his toothpick. Mike quickly goes into sort of a catatonic fugue state, as most LA types do when removed from sunlight. Then a door appears. Mike opens it with his mind. And inside is every unkind, hateful, and traumatic word ever said to him, screaming back at him at 100 times the volume. Then silence. Daddy, where are you? Mike turns around to see Katie in the other room. You're not real, he says, defeated. Katie comes strolling over, traversing the wreckage of the room and closing the gap between them as Mike falls to his knees, finally fully broken and vulnerable. He embraces her and tells her everything is going to be okay now. Katie says that they won't let her stay, but Mike insists that he's not letting her go again, not for anything. Then she goes limp in his arms, dying all over again before his eyes. Okay, now Mike is totally broken. There's nothing left in the tank for this guy. He's relived every trauma in his life, and there's surely not a single thing that the room could do now to... Katie's lifeless body crumbles into ashes, slipping between Mike's fumbling fingers like fleeting grains of sand in a running hourglass. Christ, this is an evil fucking room. Mike goes full berserker mode and demolishes what's left of the furniture in the room, taking out every last bit of his anger on his horrible, awful, no good, very bad place. The timer on the alarm clock finally hits 0 and everything resets back to normal, pristine as the grand opening all those years ago. The 60-minute timer resets. A call comes through on the phone and Mike picks up. The woman asks if he'd like to relive the same hour over and over again forever, or if he'd like to take the express checkout. The room then fills with nooses, as if to hint at what may be the quickest way out of here. All bets are off now. 1408 is just going to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. Mike looks in the mirror to find it empty. It then shows himself doing something that I can't exactly show on here, but it's basically the express checkout procedure being demonstrated for him. Oof. Mike goes back to the phone and tells the attendant he's not going out their way. Sorry. He sets down the phone and it begins to melt into the table. A male voice on the line tells him, every friend is now dead. 7. This is Severin. Every friend is now dead. Mikey sits down, tears a piece off from his shirt and stuffs it into Olin's liquor bottle, forming a makeshift Molotov cocktail and wings it at the wall, setting the room ablaze. He calmly sits down and lights his emergency cigarette, grabbing his recorder one last time and recording his review of the hotel. 10 out of 10 skulls. At street level, Lily is pulling up in a cab just in time to witness the room really going up in flames as Mike frisbees the ashtray through the window, creating a backdraft, fueling the flames and just really fucking up the drapes in general. Mike collapses to the floor laughing hysterically. It seems as if someone may have finally defeated the mighty 1408. Okay, so from here the movie can go about 4 different ways due to a whole bunch of alternate endings, which were the result of the director arguing with the studio over test audience feedback or some shit like that. There's one ending where Mike is saved, gets back together with Lily, and upon reviewing his recording, hears Katie's ghostly voice on the tape. Another ending where Mike dies, and Lily gets his possessions and hears the voice. A third ending where everyone turns into cartoons and starts doing a song and dance about the joys of knitting or some shit like that. But since I watched the director's cut, I got this ending here. Cut to the funeral with Lily and Monk. As they're leaving, Olin approaches them with a box of the few belongings that Mike left and were recovered from the burned room. Lily refuses the offering as she doesn't want to remember him that way for some reason. Olin says that Mike was effective in finally conquering the room and that he didn't die in vain. Lily looks confused and a little concerned and leaves. Olin takes the box back to his car and looks through it, playing the recording and also hearing Katie's voice to his confusion. He looks up to get spooked by a scorched Mike in the backseat of the car who immediately disappears. Olin regains his composure and drives off, and we're left with the scene showing a ghostly Mike, still trapped in 1408, but now Katie is with him. She beckons him and he walks into the other room and dissipates like a sad vape cloud. How bittersweet. Alright, so let's just cut to the chase here. Watch or don't watch. Watch, but watch the theatrical version, not the director's cut like me. At a 2-hour runtime, this movie probably is a bit much for the average viewer, unless you're like me who really likes John Cusack for some reason I can't quite put my finger on. Visually, the movie is pretty stunning and well done. For taking place in one hotel room, for the most part, it really manages to keep things fresh and fun to look at. It really makes use of every aspect of the set, playing with sense of space, scale, and reality at times. 1408 really does look quite sinister in some shots, and perfectly innocuous in others. The scenes sliding in and out of reality, coupled with the constant physical and mental torture from the room, really makes you feel Mike's pain effectively. Sound design was well executed and very technical at times, from the digital distortions which created horror over the telephone and radio, to the flames, waves, and frost that plagued the room throughout the film. The plot was very Stephen King, you know the drill, he picks a noun and makes it spooky. However, whoever chose this particular story to adapt to film I think probably had a very strong connection with it, which shows in how much care it was handled with. This was a bit before the Stephen King adaptation renaissance, so you couldn't necessarily just rely on the name and go autopilot with it, the content had to be good. I think what stands out the most is the casting and the actors. Samuel is at peak Samuel. Lily and Katie did well. I love the addition of Tony Shalhoub and even Isaiah Whitlock Jr., the wary maintenance man who is going to be in the upcoming Cocaine Bear, did an excellent job in the limited screen time he had. Even the extras and minor characters were awesome, including the melted Roseanne, the reserved yet somehow beyond scary bellhop. Hell, even the dusty corpse in the attic was killing it. The shining star of this film, and kind of the glue that holds it all together though, is John Cusack, whose highly animated presence, bizarre expressions, and range are on display here in a big way. This is a good example of just putting an actor in a situation and really letting them take a great big bite out of it and chew a while, and I think it worked nearly perfectly. Go see it. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere on a screen near you right now. What do you think of this movie? What do you think I should review next? Let me know in the comments. Check out the link tree here in a few seconds to find my TikTok, Substack, Spotify, YouTube, LiveJournal, MySpace, Zanga, ICQ, and any other type of shit that I do. Thanks for watching. This video took a long time to make and I had a lot of fun, though it was tough at times. Till next time.